I'm going to do a head removal of the Tarago that's behind me here, aka Previa. And there is no detailed videos online that on YouTube that I've been able to find that gives details about how to remove these heads, or any removal of a head with overhead cams. Really, people seem to be leaving a lot information out that's really important. And so I'm going to go through this. Now, I've got a workshop manual, which I can show you here. I'll leave screenshots at the end, but that's all the information of a workshop manual. And you can't really see that, I guess, but what I'll do is I'll take screenshots of that, and at the end of the video, I'll have screenshots of the procedures of what the workshop manual says about removing the head. And I also have information from Sammy, a mate of mine over in America, and now he's got instructions there on. He's done a lot of head removals and so forth, and so he's given me step-by-step procedures of what he does to remove heads. So I'm going to follow his instructions rather than following the workshop manual. The workshop manual says the motor has to be removed from the van to be able to do a head gasket and so forth, and we're not doing that. We're not removing the motor. I do not have the tools to do that, and you can see the van is only lifted so high, so I'll be on my back a lot. Also, Sammy's also screenshots I'll put at the end. Send me a few photos of things to be mindful of. So which way the sprocket has to be with the timing chain. That's the timing mark at the bottom where it has to line up. That's the bolt you put into on that sprocket, the tensioner there. And that's where the two marks line up on the cams. All these pictures here that Sammy's sent to me, I'll include all those at the end as like a slideshow, so you can have a look at those photos yourself. There's probably about a dozen of them. So I'm using my phone to record this because simply trying to get the camera into certain positions and trying to get it stable so I can show you me working at the same time. Taking it all apart is going to be too tricky with a camera, where with the phone I can get it in there with me. Some parts of the video I may or may not talk depending on what I'm doing. I might be focusing on what I'm doing, but I'll have the phone in such a way that you can see me working when I'm taking things off. And I'm going to try and make this video as much detail as possible, so it could be a lengthy video. I'm not really too sure until the end of it, and I've gone back and edited it and so forth and left all the important parts in. I'm not going to show you removing every single bolt of the head, but I'm going to show you the procedure of removing the bolts of the head, things like that. I won't leave, if it's important, I won't leave it out, but you don't want to see me there turning bolts all the time. I don't have the tools that Sammy has, so it's going to be slower for me. Also, this job should only take about 2 hours at most. It's going to probably take me about 4 or 5 hours, because setting up the camera and lighting and everything between every single move, it's going to be timely for me. But I'm doing this for all future Tarago Previa owners who wants to be able to do a head gasket on their van. And so if I get the details in right now, make a good video, yeah, anybody else should be good to go to follow step by step, watching this video, pausing it, replaying it and so forth, and get the job done. So thanks to Sammy for the instructions. If I get stuck, Sammy did say to give him a call, and if I run into any problems. So thanks again for that, Sammy. When putting the head gasket back on, there's one thing I will be asking Sammy about is the workshop manual mentions putting a seal on front and on the rear of the gasket, and I'll be asking him what's that about. Should I be doing that, or is it really needed? Alright, so I'll get into it and enjoy the video.
Okay, so the first part here is removing this shield. There is 10mm here holding two different shields together. They can both stay together. I've got a couple missing, but I don't know. One missing there, one missing there. So there should be all together. There's one there, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts need to come out, all 12mm. Good idea to wear protection glasses. I didn't think of that before getting under here. I'll make sure I have them handy for next time out. Slide that back there out of the way. Okay, so the next part is there's 5 volts to remove from the exhaust manifold. Safety glasses on. Nothing worse than having stuff fall in your eyes while you're trying to work. You're going to need a 14mm long socket. Okay, so I've got a bucket here now to collect all these bolts. That was rather easy to turn, so I'd say they're all going to be easy to turn. I don't have to worry about this dropping on me, simply because I have this mount here holding the exhaust up. That's loose now. So that mount there is holding the exhaust up still. So now I've got 3 bolts on the back here. So you can see them on that side there. There's one, another one there. Oh, that's holding the mount, that part. I'll swing the camera around. So you got top there, one on the other side as well over here, one there, looks like they're 14mm as well, a bit bigger. Top one looks, the bottom one doesn't look right, does it? It doesn't match the rest of them. So another one has been replaced here. Top one's 14, bottom one has been replaced with a different one that happened to fit when the job was done last time. Okay, so I'll remove them 3, and that will drop the front exhaust manifold there, or exhaust headers if you want to, and we'll get that out. And it's a bit tricky to record this, but I'll give it a go. Okay, so somebody's put a 16mm bolt in the back here. I don't think it needs to be a long socket, they just happen to be handy right now. It's a bit hot. Must have been on there pretty tight. Top one's a 14mm. Should have done this from the beginning. Bit of penetrating with spray. Every country has something different, so use what's available to you. WD-40, RP7, or anything like that. Whoever did this last time wasn't persistent. 2 washers on this one, no washers on the top one. Okay, that's getting tighter and tighter. I'll try to take that off. I'm just going to put one exhaust bolt back in just to hold the exhaust up, and then I have to work that bolt forwards and backwards to slowly work that off. And just put that on finger tight, so that'll be easy enough to take off when I'm ready. Now I'm going to tighten this bolt back up. Okay, I'll come there in a minute, mate. Tighten that back in. Get a bit more WD on that. Oh, in my case, it's multi-purpose lubricant. What I'm trying to do here is save the stud so I don't have a problem with the exhaust manifold. I don't want to snap that and then have to try and find the stud for it. Doesn't want to play. She's being a bit stubborn. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've put a jockey strap onto the exhaust here. But I don't know if that's going to fall down when I take all this away. This top bolt here is decided to unbolt from the other side, but at least it's not threaded in there, and I can put that back in later. And I've already loosened off this bracket here. I'm about to take that last bolt there out, and they're 14mm as well. About to take that last bolt there out, and the manifold will then separate and be able to take that one bolt there out and drop it away. Put my hat back on. I'm sure you don't want to look at a bald-headed bloke. Okay, I'm holding that up with a bit of force at the moment with one arm. I'll drop that down. I gave this bit here a bit of a wiggle and the exhaust just dropped down. So that part's out. And let's have a look at this gasket. Oh, look at the mess we've got going on here. I've never seen anything like that before. Holy smokes. And it's going to make something interesting to look at once it's out. Okay, I'll need to unbolt this here as well. That's the oil return going into the sump there. Next step I'm doing is I'm just draining out oil. In this case, oil and water by the looks of it, before I remove the oil return. So that one there is a 12mm. Okay, this clamp here has a like a rubber fitting that goes over the top there like that, and it's big enough to be able to slide it over the other mount, the other clamp I should say. Oh, don't want to drop that in oil. So I should be able to clamp this now and bring it back a bit, and these clamps make life easy. I don't have to muck around with screwing in and out, just like that. Okay, I've got a don't do for you already. I thought I'd remove this oil return, and I got the clamps off, removed that hose, broke the hose in the process. It's pretty it's not flexible anymore, it's pretty hard. Nonetheless, I could have probably reused that hose had I not tried to jump a step. I cannot get this return out with the mount in the way, so the mount's going to have to come off first. This entire arm has to come off for this to be able to swing past and come out. See, on the left side here, I can reach the top of the mount there and it's a 19 mil. Let's undo that, and two 14 mils from the bottom. And when I jack it up, I'll be able to remove this mount only and not the complete arm. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, well, honestly, I can't reach Sammy right now to find out if he meant the whole arm as well, and I don't think that part's required. And by removing this part of the engine mount only, I can leave the earth strap and everything all connected in place and not have to give myself a whole bunch more work that I don't think is needed. So these aren't loose yet, they're still tight, but the top one there is now it's loose. Wasn't too hard to do. And all of these here are finger tight. So this is the right side of the engine, and in America you'd be calling that the driver's side. In Australia it's the passenger side. And the bottom mounts here are loose as well. So once I've got everything loose, then I'm going to remove all the nuts and bolts from both mounts, jack the engine up. Okay, well, while I wait for Sammy, because I've got a board underneath the sump there, I'm thinking I'll jack it up from underneath the sump, but I just want to clear that with Sammy first. So I need to remove these vacuum lines out of the way. Now, if anyone's wondering, because this is the question that people ask a lot in the channel, is what are these two lines here? Basically what it is the bigger line, I believe it's the bigger line that comes in from the front of the air intake, and it just passes air through, and then this comes up near the manifold, intake manifold, just so it circulates air through the distributor for cooling purposes. That's all that does there. You try to explain that a few times, and it's a bit hard when others don't know. Okay, so they're off now. Two 12mm bolts, and I'll pull the distributor out. Now, I haven't removed leads and things like that because I've already done that. I've already been working on this motor prior to today, because this motor was originally seized, and I've worked it loose. But that's the reason why we're doing a head gas or head removal. Now, this is mainly for you guys, because I don't think that this motor is going to be salvageable, but it's a good project to make videos out of. I was overkill using a torque wrench for that. I didn't need to use that. Could have just used a normal wrench. It was just closer. In case you're wondering, I used a torque wrench to unbolt the engine mounts. I expected them to be really tight, but they weren't. Is there another one? I don't believe there is. I'm going to remove that. I'll undo this dizzy cap. Very important to have that shield on the bottom there between the dizzy cap and the exhaust that I just removed. This guy here, and it's made out of stainless, because I've seen distributor caps melt. That's all I had to do. There we go. And just for good measure, I'll put the cap back on the dizzy. And you got this pipe here. I think it's called an Egr Return, something like that. That needs to come loose as well. 14mm. It's just the harness that's connected to the head as well, so that needs to be removed. Okay, this part here would have been definitely easier once the motor has dropped. I'll have a chat with Sammy in a minute. Just trying to make it the best of my time at the moment. Alright, that's the harness part undone from there. So right now Sammy is online. He's messaged me while I've been on here doing this. So I'm going to go out and have a chat with Sammy, and we'll get back into the engine mounts. Okay, so just spoken to Sammy, and he says that I do have to remove the whole arm and mount, not just the mount alone. He said I'll regret it if I don't, because it gives that little bit more room to work with. And so I've already loosened off these bolts. I can't turn them by hand, but I have loosened them off. And there's one bolt at the very front that I've already removed there. I can't get my hand, can I? Oh yes, I can. So there's a bolt that goes through there as well. I've already removed that. 14 mil, all of them 14 mil, except for the earth lead, which was 12. So now I'll just loosen these off a little bit more. And also Sammy said that putting a board underneath the sump, which I've got here, like that, on top of the jack, will be enough support for it. So I'm going to get these mounts out right now, and I won't be able to record it while I'm doing that, but I think I've explained that pretty much this whole arm's coming out with the mount. These bolts are already loose here. So once I've loosened all that side off there, jack it up, I'll come around from the front of the motor, and I'll record a bit of footage there just before I do take these mounts out. Okay, I've got these engine mounts pretty loose. The reason why they're hard to turn by hand now is because now that the engine mounts on both sides are finger tight, the motor's dropped a little bit and put tension on those bolts. So now it's time to jack it up. So what I'm doing here is pretty much trying to center the jack both from the side here and looking from the front. But I've pretty much centered it there. So now I'll jack it up and the engine mounts will come loose and I'll be able to remove the engine mounts. Okay, so this is the one side. This is the left side of the car, Previa driver's side, I guess. Tarago passenger side. The one bolt that I can't undo by hand. I'm expecting this one to give me a bit of a scare when it bolts out. But it'd be good to refer back to the notes in the description or the workshop manual at the very end when I do this slideshow, because things like draining coolant, because I've already done that, I haven't mentioned doing it. So just go over the steps of that. Well, I didn't get a scare. All the bolts on this side are the same size. Okay, that side's out. Okay, so that's just that one bolt holding it on this side as well. This side has different length bolts. I'll show you in a minute. Okay. So two short ones and one long one on this side. And that should be all I need to undo on this side. Okay, there was one more I was missing. That was kind of hiding from me back here onto this support bar there. So now that's off. Get this engine mount out as well. That's super easy to do. And while I'm here, you can see quite clearly this guy here. That is your water valve. If you're doing a complete flush on your car or on your van, you can turn this out and it drains all the water out from the block Okay, so now I'm this far. I can let the engine down until it rests onto the oil pump there, and then I'll still leave the jack underneath it for now, because I'm going to call it quits for tonight. It's now nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, and continue this tomorrow. Okay, Sammy said to let it rest on the oil filter. I'm not letting it all the way down though. The jack is still supporting it. Okay, so definitely got a lot more room on this side. I can even get access to that knock sensor there quite easily. But I can see right through underneath there now. And I should be able to remove this other pipe now, since I'm here. You get in the bucket. Okay, so that's off. Now, I should mention, this is blocked. The person who ate it before me blocked that line there. You need to disconnect this line before you can remove this hose, and that's from the oil reservoir underneath the bonnet that tops up the motor when the motor's running low on oil, which is something that I will be reconnecting if this all works out. Okay, so now I'm on the left side of the engine here. I need to loosen off this Egr Modulator and just push it aside so I can get access to the bolts for the manifold mount, and under this manifold mount here as well. Only the top bolts need to come out, and the bottom one's loosened off, but they can stay in, they just need to be loose. Down the bottom there. These ones up here just 12mm. To undo them, I need to that's 12mm there for the top of the mount. I can use a ratchet on this side, but I'm going to have to use a spanner on that side. They're only small bolts. There's only the one vacuum hose there that's holding the bottom, that one, so if I can get that off, get that out of the way. Okay, so I got this side loose. How I did it was remove the oil cap and the dipstick, and that allows you to get enough room in here with the spanner, like so, to be able to loosen that and turn. The other side over here, I had to use an extension with a swivel to get in there and remove that bolt that's down there, or will not remove it, just loosen it. So now that mount is loose, that mount is loose, and I go back to the other side. Okay, to remove the Egr Return Pipe here, Sammy says just to pry that out with a screwdriver there to clear the thread. And what I've done as an extra on top is where it connects up to here. That's 24mm, I'll just turn that, loosen it, so the pipe can, when I pull it away from the block, that turns there as well. Just I don't know if it's needed, just a little something that I saw that I thought might help. So we'll get in there and get away from there. Okay, and I'm pretty sure it does help because I can turn that easy like that. Okay, so now it's time to remove the harness. So unplug all your sensors at the front here, unplug your fuel injection, number them first, it will help. So mine are already numbered from another time that this has been worked on. I don't remember doing it myself, I think it was done before I got it, but it's a good idea to do it. Okay, so we'll get that out of the way. These two bolts here on top there that's holding onto it. I'll get into that first and then I'll show you what was done. Okay, so now what I'm doing here, I used a couple of cable ties and used the bolts that hold that plate down. There's the holes there to get the cable ties through, hold that cable up. Sammy said to bring it in, fold it underneath for this. I found it a bit too brittle to be doing that with this car or this van. Yeah, word of advice, I also broke the vacuum line here. It goes onto here. So, because I just put it like that and that's brittle, so it broke. So don't do that. Just get something there to help you pull it off here and save yourself having to run a new vacuum line. I'm not going to be undoing all that, I'll just run a new vacuum line through, that'll be fine. So now I need to remove this fuel line. Careful with the washer on that. Take this fuel rail out. This vacuum line here, or return line, needs to come off. Okay, this here needs to come off. That PVC connection there. Get that fuel line out, the fuel rail off. Okay, undoing this manifold here, and it's all 12mm. That wasn't finger tight, I'd already turned it. 2 nuts, 4 bolts, by the looks of it. You've got 10mm holding these fuel lines on. I don't think I need to remove them. I see why Sammy said get the cable out of your way though, because it does make it trickier getting the ratchet onto these. Not impossible, just trickier. Now, I'm kind of like doing a backwards step right now. In Sammy's instructions, he says to loosen this off, use a like a U-clamp, just make one up and just to lift that up and hold it free from the block. But I need to get underneath the front of the car and undo another bolt first. So while I'm here, I'm just doing what I can here first, and then I'll go around the front of the car and do that. But I guess it's either way, it's got to come off anyway. Important things to take note though is the bolt that I just undid then is also holding on the earth lead. You don't want to forget putting the earth lead on. So I'll just try and show you that quickly. In there. You see that earth lead there? Hopefully. Okay, so we've got something else here. I don't know if that's important or not. Looks like some sort of pipes there, but anyway. Okay, back underneath the front here. And you can see that 12mm up there. I reached that with a long extension. It's a 12mm. Okay, just a small 12mm. Actually looks like a 10. Oh, it's just pot luck. I thought it was 12. And I thought I had a 12mm socket. It's a 10mm socket. That worked out. Okay, the water return, that's now loose over there. You can see the bracket that's we've turned back there. And had to use a small ratchet to get into here. So loosen these off. Bracket on the front I need to undo as well. That looks like a 12. Okay. So the next part you want to do here is you need to get a pry bar to lift the intake manifold up, and I did it about here. I don't think it really matters as long as you can get it up, and then you need to use a little bit of force to push it up initially. Once you get to a certain point it lifts easy. Once you get it up, get yourself a F clamp and put it underneath there to hold the intake manifold up. And get yourself a C clamp to hold the water outlet to the side there. So now everything's clear from the head. I just need to go underneath the van now and put the timing mark right on the harmonic balancer and on the cams as well, and then I can remove the cams and start removing the head. So now focusing on the timing. Now because I've got SADs in the way, I can't get a socket onto the bolt in the center of the harmonic balancer, which would make life easy to line up the timing, and if I have to I will, but for now go ahead and remove all your 10mm valve cover bolts and remove the valve cover. Okay, lining up the timing mark underneath the van is not real easy, but what I'm doing is getting the crowbar in here and moving it like so or like so, whichever way I want, and the timing mark is at the top for the chain purposes of the lining everything up to do the timing on the timing chain and so forth, not for timing, not this one down the bottom here for doing the timing on the motor. It's different. And then I've got to get out from underneath the van here and go around to the top and have a look at the cams to see if they've lined up. And so I'm almost there right now, and then I'll show you from the top the angle you've got to look in at to see that timing mark. Okay, so I've got the timing all lined up. I'll just try and point it out to you. You got the two marks here that line up. You got one dot. Well, I've noticed other people taking heads off. Some of them have arrows. Mine has dots. And I've got two dots on one side, one dot on the other. They line up. And you got this mark here. So if you look to the front of the sprocket there, you can see that there's a gap there that lines up to there. At the front of that sprocket, you can see I'll get a screwdriver on it first. You can see there's a groove there. That's to be pointing directly out. And from the top here, this is the tricky part when we're trying to line up the timing. Let's see if I can show you. You see that timing mark down there lining up with the harmonic balancer, and I can show you an easier way to help find that marking that you need. Okay, so around underneath the van here, there's actually a mark on the other side of this harmonic balancer that I didn't know about. Now, if you line that there,
See the mark there? I've got the screwdriver right now. There's a mark there. Line that up with 0 on this side, and that lines up with the timing mark on the other side. It's actually spot on, just the camera angle from the top and what I can see with my eyes is 2 different angles, and yeah, so that's ready to go. I don't know if I've already mentioned it, but I found it easier to see that timing mark by taking this off the clamp. And if I can get in there for a bit of light as well. There you go. So there's a timing mark there. Lining right up, spot on. So now I'm good to go. First of all, I'm going to remove the exhaust cam. What you should be doing right now, split sprocket here. There's a split tension sprocket. It's supposed to put a screw in there and tighten that up. That's what you're supposed to do right now. Put a screw right through, and that's not a long enough screw, what I've just used, but you can see on this side here, I've actually had this cam off before and didn't know that I was supposed to do this, and that's sprung back, so I have to fix that up when it's away from the motor and put a long enough screw through that. Going to need something that's probably about double the length of the one I just put in there anyway. So that's an important step right now to do not forget to do that. Put a screw in so it goes right through, keeps that tension on that sprocket. Alright, so right now I'm going to get into it and remove that exhaust cam. Alright, well I hope there's enough light on there for you. These here, I'm going to be numbering them. At the moment I'll just set them all in a line, and I'll number them which way they go back on as well, so it's the same wear and tear from the cam. That there has an arrow pointing towards the sprockets, so it's a good thing to keep note of there, especially for me with the video. I can look back onto that. That's one cam out. Alright, here's a little something I noticed. This is from the front of the motor to the back of the motor, and that's the top. And if I stand them up like this, it's already marked, so I just have to keep a memory of this for when I put it back on. You've got the, see from the front to the back there, you've got ZTRS, but I've got that marking that's on the bottom, and I know which order that goes in. I don't need to mark it, I can store these somewhere safe with the bolts that just came out. Okay, so this part here, I'm doing the sprockets at 19mm. Sammy says to put a spanner on that and then give it a wallop. I'm going to use my breaker bar and see if I can turn it. I'm not real keen on walloping things with sledgehammers. Oh, that turns the motor, so that's no good to me. Have to make sure my marks line up. Now this part I'm not happy about. If I could somehow stop that sprocket from turning, I'd much rather use my breaker bar. My point exactly. I'm not real good at friggin' this type of thing. And I'm thinking about putting a bar like so through here, like further down, and stop that from turning. Because the head is alloy, I don't want to damage the head if the head is reusable. There's a good chance it's not, but there's also a slim chance it's alright. So I'm just having a bit of a challenge getting that bolt off. Okay, finally got that bolt to turn. My god, that was hard. Gave me a full-on workout, that did, but as I say, I cracked the seal, I had to use, this is my extension bar, which is my breaker bar, which is pretty long on its own. I also had to use this pole, which is even longer than my breaker bar, and get my whole weight on that before it finally gave out. But I got it. And what I did down here was, so I don't damage the head, was the plate from the bracket rather, that came off this, I used because it's about 2 mil thick, so it gives that support and not pushing around edge against the head there, and the flat part of the extension bar there pushing against the head there, which I'll remove right now if I can. I might just need to tighten this up a little bit again. Yep, okay. Yeah, good. I want to tighten it up again, be in the same predicament as I was a second ago. But that's loose now. I'll take this away, take that away. And I haven't damaged my head there. And there's no damage there, a little bit of a shine, but there's no imprints there that I can feel with my finger, but it's not in an important part to worry about that anyway. Oh, thank God for that. So now, I'll explain the difference between sockets as well. I went with this socket here because you can see the edging on the inside. It fits the full bolt properly. I was first using a socket like this, and you can see the bolt, how it starts to get that edging on it, because that's where the shine part is. That's the part where a socket like this pushes force against. And if I had kept on pushing with that other socket, I would have ended up damaging this, and then I would have had no hope. So I've got this socket out, got that out now. I can take that out and progress with getting this sprocket off. I won't take that right out, I'll get the sprocket loose first, and then take that out and tie the chain up. Okay, so getting this sprocket off here, I wasn't really too sure how to go about it because I can't get a pulley into there to be able to take that off. So I decided to hit with a hammer on the front here, and I noticed that the gap here was bouncing about. So then I come along and tap here. Now I've got that bolt out just a little bit. I might turn it out just a little bit more. And we'll get this loose. That's all lined up there. Should be able to do the rest of a couple of screwdrivers. Okay, I can't do this with one hand, I don't think. Oh, it's getting there. Slowly. Well, that was bad timing for the light to go off. Take this off. Now, the correct way I should have done it, when I rethink it, live and learn. This is the first time I'm taking the head off a Previa myself. I've done plenty of heads with no overhead cams, and they're rather easy to do. So what I should have done was, once I got this bolt loose, if I had gone over and loosened the cam off so the back of the cam could lift up, that would have given this chain some slack, and I could have just slid that sprocket off without that stress of the screwdriver. Not that it was that much drama. If I was using both hands, I could have just got 2 screwdrivers and slipped that off. But like I said, live and learn. I'm going to take this off now. I cleaned the tops of this up because I noticed the top ones are different to the bottom ones, and you can't go wrong with the order and know which way's up and down, because if I can show you this quickly. They're marked
with an arrow pointing forward, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. I don't know why they're marked that way, but it does make life easier with getting them back on. I don't have to mark them myself. I don't like how the phone just turns its light off randomly like that. Okay, so that's all them off. I'll just hold them up like that. You can see how they're numbered from 11 to 15. They can only go one way back on, so that's easy enough to know. Take this cam out. Undo that bolt up front, silly. I'll just put that back in there for good measure so I don't lose it. Alright, the head bolts actually have a bolt on them that looks more like that shape there. Unfortunately, I don't have the right size, and the socket does fit on it. It's 14. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 along the top. So starting from 5, I'm going to work from the inside out. I'll just put these bolts away and these pucks away. It's what Sammy calls them. These things here called pucks. So I'll just put them in the box, get them out of the way, and get into taking this head off. What I'm going to do is crack these nuts to start off with. Not even going to do a quarter turn. Just want to get them to crack. That's it. And then I'll turn them all a little bit by a little bit. That's enough. That's enough. So I'm probably going 1/8 of a turn, and they're turning rather easy. Important right now to do a H pattern or an X pattern, however you want to look at it. Okay. Just crisscross all the way, but don't loosen it too much. There's a reason for it. I'll stop for a second. Explain that. The reason why you have 3 stages of torquing it is so you don't warp the head when you're tensioning it down. Same procedure getting it off. If I was to just go from the front of the block, or from the front of the head to the back, just taking it out, taking it out, taking it out, by the time I get to the back, they're going to be really super hard to get off. You watch any YouTube video that they're taking a head off, and you'll see when they've done that, they get to the back and they're like, oh, these ones are really tight. It's because they didn't do it evenly. They're all going to turn equally off like I'm doing right now if you do it in the X pattern all over the block. And there's less chance of warping the head or cracking the head when getting it off. If it's not already cracked, you don't want to encourage it to crack by taking it off incorrectly or warping because you've taken it off incorrectly. So all of these, I'm just cracking them about 1/8 of a turn. Then I'll come back over them again, about another 1/8 of a turn, and I'm just going to keep doing that until basically they're finger tight and then I can take it out. Okay, got this guy here that I hadn't loosened yet, but I need to loosen it right now so I can get to that back bolt. So I've just undone it enough that I can swing it out of the way, and then I'll just put the other bolt back in once I've got the head off. And yeah, that's just a prevention of losing that bit, save having to look for it later. It's at the front of 12mm. they're all finger tight now. So it took me 3 times of turning it 1/8 of a turn each time, going over them all to get them all finger tight. Okay. That's the sprocket out. The sprocket can go back on 2 different ways. From what I've noticed with other people taking heads off, this dot here is on the inside. My particular van, the dot was on the outside, so I think that can go either way. I will put it back on the same way it came off, but I think it could probably go on either way. Okay, we'll tie it onto there. It's a bit of a tight spot, but can be done. And then we'll take the head off. Making sure that's really tight in there. That's good. Okay, that's not going nowhere. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab it wherever I feel like is the best spot and lift her out. Forget about that. Oh, it's stopping me. Okay, so there's the head. It's off. Don't know how you get a bird feather in there. And she's looking pretty messed up. So the trick to getting the head out, when I was having problems with when I was trying to lift it out, was because this chain here, now this is a rookie mistake, because if you've done this before you would have known, having this chain hanging was catching onto the head, and to prevent that, swing the chain over. As soon as I did that, I was able to get the head off, no worries. Definitely would have been helpful to have 2 people there. One could do something, you know, like help support the head, whatever, while the other one worked out what's going on. But anyway, it is what it is. I'll just give you a quick look. Everything always looks worse dirty than it will clean, so I don't know. I did say at the beginning I don't think this motor is salvageable, but I will give it a clean up and see where I'm at, and see if I will tackle fixing it up and putting it back together, or just scrapping it. If I scrap it, I scrap the whole van. I'll strip it for parts and scrap the whole van. That's what I don't want to do, but that's what I will do if I don't think this motor is worth anything. I don't really know if it was from somebody putting an additive into the coolant to try and fix a radiator leak or something like that. It might have blocked up these passageways. I've heard of that happening, which causes more problem for the motor than it does to repair a radiator. And honestly, for $150 for a radiator, to risk having to do this to your motor, you don't want that to happen. Alright, so that was a educational video. Yeah, so that's all out and done. I've only got 1 day left to clean up my mess here, and then I have to get stuck into a couple of other cars, so it's going to be a little while before I can continue on this job. I've got other things to do too in between, so it could take a while. So thanks for watching, and there's a few do's and don'ts in this video, mostly do's. It was good. It was educational for me. It should be educational for yous. So next time that I ever have to come across this, like if my daily Tarago ever happens to have a head gasket problem, I know how to get straight into it and knock it over in probably a day. So I don't really have much more to say. The video kind of speaks for itself. If you watched it right through, you know what to expect and what you're going to need to do. It would have helped if the van was a little bit higher to work under, but most of the work was done under the van. Not much in the area of working over the top part under the engine covers. It was more underneath the van work. So if you've watched the whole clip, I appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and catch us next time. There's always new videos coming around the corner. They're not daily or weekly. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Most of the time I can knock over a video every month, but life happens. Got stuff to do. So take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you next time.